Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Yitka Graham. I'll be speaking about the who fails more, and I'm going to talk about the patient. So thank you, Dr. Morton, for an excellent presentation before. I want to just put a few things before. I'm a qualitative researcher, so I look at the world quite differently. And I think if we're going to look at why the patient fails, I think we really need to try and get inside the heads and the hearts and the minds of the patients. So if we look at the context of the patients, we know this patient group has acknowledged complex psychopathology. The concept of control is important. We know that bariatric surgery can assist patients to regain control over aspects of their lives. We know surgical procedures do not work in isolation, and the patient has to work with the physiological changes that surgery brings. And it's very much a partnership of patient and procedure. And I think when we were talking about failure and why patients fail, I think it's really important to understand the concept of failure in bariatric patients. If we look at the disease of obesity, that is rooted in a discourse of failure. The rates of stigma are associated with a higher body weight. It's the failure to achieve or maintain a normal body size. The eligibility criteria for bariatric surgery in some countries, so I'll speak from the UK, which is where I work, it relies on a failure to lose weight by other methods prior to surgery. And just interesting to note that the original guidelines in 2006 said, bariatric surgery was an acceptable method once other methods had been tried and failed. In 2014, that was changed. The word failure was changed to unsuccessful attempts. And I think it's very, very important that this was actually done, but just to think about failure, again, in terms of how the patients perceive that. The perception of surgery doing the work and not the person. So there's a failure for taking the easy way out of choosing bariatric surgery, as I said before. Cheating, they're common societal interpretations of weight loss surgery. So this concept of failure from the patient perspective is evident and really embedded. So revisional procedures, so again, we reoperate because they have failed to achieve adequate weight loss or maintain that weight loss. So when I looked at the published evidence, and I said I looked specifically for published evidence in terms of revisional bariatric procedures, there's very few studies which focus on revisional patients only. So they're largely focused on the clinical aspects of surgery, the indications for revisional surgery, such as poor weight loss, weight gain, reflux and ulcers, the mechanisms of failure, and the resolution of technical problems. There's a lack of patient perspective, and again, from my point of view in that qualitative brain, why did the patient gain weight, or why did they fail to achieve adequate weight loss? What was happening, and why was it happening? I think the context is so important, and we need this to understand what's going on with the patients. So why do patients fail? So going back to the broader literature, so that includes primary procedures, unrealistic expectations of bariatric surgery, which was mentioned before, and then slipping back into poor or newly developed eating habits, not following the post-surgical advice, testing the procedure, such as the band, lost the conceptual feeling of control, and psychological issues, so these would either be new or they would be pre-existing, and a lack of social support. So in summary, the reasons for patient failing are proposed to be complex and multifactorial. They're not widely understood from a patient perspective. I think we're very much lacking this from a research perspective. And given the increased numbers of revisional procedures, I think this really has to be something we need to be doing as priority, looking at this cohort of patients and just say it's only a failure if you don't learn from it. Thank you.